Couple on Fire podcast. If you're not watching this, actually, Christy did karate hands. Okay, so just so we're all clear on that. So and again, you got them again. Just so if you're listening to this, you got karate hands twice from Christy.
We're sleep deprived.
We're going to talk a little bit about that. All right. So welcome to today's show. First and foremost, today we're actually going to talk about the art of unlearning in marriage. When's that coming out?
Right now.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Couple on Fire podcast. This podcast is for couples, for marriages, and for families within the Christian community. We exist to help break the stigma that happens within the Christian community. We're talking about divorce, we're talking about addiction, and we're talking about so much more. We believe that all this is possible in this life, strictly based on the power of Jesus Christ and his ability to restore us fully. Let's dive in. What is up? What is up? Welcome to today's show. If you didn't, you might want to rewind it and watch some karate hands. I mean, Christy was handing them out like it was nobody's business in the beginning. So, before we dive into this episode, she's going to randomly pull them out today, friends. Karate hands are happening. Going crazy with karate hands. Don't really know why. Or what. She's slap happy. So we want to talk a little bit about that, right? So we are a little bit sleep deprived because we had in our household, a major catastrophe happen this last week. So you want to tell everybody a little bit about it? I actually have pictures I'm going to show everybody.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do.
She's our baby.
She is, but she's doing great.
Yeah. So for people that don't understand how important dogs are to families, you might as well turn the episode off right now.
Praying for the baby. Yeah, we're gonna sound dramatic to you if you don't love dogs. So
Josh and I have had a traumatic couple years, and that is a long story in and of itself. But over the course of a couple years, we had to put three dogs down that we had, and so we ended up mourning and then deciding to get another dog. So she's our only one right now, and her name is Stella, and she's a French bulldog, and she so fast that the Saturday after Thanksgiving, she wasn't really acting herself. She was still like running and walking and everything, but she just really wasn't acting right. And then Sunday, she still was wanting to go and greet people, like walk and everything, but she wouldn't, like she'd try to like go to do something or jump up on the couch and she'd fall.
Yeah. So jump up on people's kneecaps is what
and she'd fall. Yeah. So, but she was still walking and running and playing. So Monday, we took her to the vet. The vet checked her out. The vet thought it was her left leg. She didn't think it was her back at all. And so we got her home Monday night, and after that, Monday night, she got worse. She started panting like uncontrollably, shaking, was in so much pain, didn't want to walk. She'd still stand, but she didn't want to move unless you picked her up. So she was still weight bearing. So we got her I went to work, got home because we took her to the vet at 3:00 on that Tuesday. Mm-hmm. The vet still didn't think it was her back. She still thought it was her muscles had been so tense that they were giving out.
A hip or a knee is what she was thinking. Yeah.
But she gave us numbers to her neurologist just in case. And so then Tuesday evening, she was paralyzed. Like she could not use her back legs
lower
at all.
Back all the way through her legs.
Yeah. She was dragging them all around. It was very traumatic. She's panting, just vibrating, like shaking uncontrollably. So we stayed up all Tuesday night with her because we got a hold of a neurosurgeon, got her in Wednesday morning, and she was stage 4 out of 5, meaning she still had deep pain sensation.
Yeah, tell everybody what it is though. Like
it's
what's common?
IVDD, which is intervertebral disc disease.
Vertebral.
Disc disease. And so there's 5 stages to it, 5 being paralyzed without deep pain sensation.
No feeling at all.
Yep. And then 4 being paralyzed, but they still have deep pain sensation. Yeah. So she still had deep pain sensation. We had to do emergency surgery, which just to do the MRI, blood work, MRI, and surgery, even to start it, they wanted $5,000. So, which obviously they got because you can see. But luckily we do have insurance on her, dog insurance on her. So we have to pay for it all up front, but we'll get reimbursed 80% of it.
Yeah, because they do an MRI, and the MRI was $4,000 just for an MRI.
Yeah. So it ended up being like $8,000 total for her.
But what they had to do, she had a burst disc, impacted her spinal cord. So they had to go in. They actually had to remove some of her bone on her spine to help open up some space in there so it wasn't impacting it. She has some swelling, so they said they weren't sure. I mean, we joined this Facebook group, which is amazing, like 50,000 people in this group. This is how prevalent this is in French Bulldogs. And we joined this group. It's a very supporting group, amazing group, French Bulldogs, IVDD, and it's just all these stories. But the majority of them that we saw was dogs that got to a stage 4, especially in her condition, most likely weren't going to have use of their rear legs again. And if so, it was going to be this long process. But, we got her home. The surgery went really, really well. She was kind of slow healing in the beginning. And then all of a sudden she was just like, they're like, you can pick her up early. Like, she's bearing weight. And so we did. We went and we picked her up. And
she's crate rest till she gets her staples. Yeah, till she gets her staples removed on the 18th. So we pick her up and carry her everywhere. She goes from pack and play to pack and play. We have a couple throughout the house, which she's loving. I mean, she's not hating. But we take her outside. She can bear weight on her legs and take a few steps on her own.
She can go potty on her own.
So
which is all an absolute miracle.
But it's been very traumatic.
It's been very traumatic. It's just, and you can see in the picture, right? This is who she is. Like at the top, and then the bottom two. It's the one on the right is her in the pack and play, and she's just relaxing. But you can see how large that scar is. I mean, it's 8 staples. I mean, it's major surgery. It's spine surgery, and so. We didn't really know what to expect, but we're up around the clock kind of right now.
We are.
She's trying to find her own way. She's confused, but she's not in any pain, which is wonderful.
Because she's been deciding that she's had to poop at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so that's poop time,
and it's kind of apparently. A 2-person thing because it's nasty out. So you have to wipe her paws off, and you can't really do that if you're the one holding her. And, you got to make sure she doesn't go to bathroom on one of her legs because she's not 100% stable yet, and so it's just like this whole process. So, but anyway, that was
that's basically been the week, right? So, but here we are, we're ready to go. It's a big blessing. We've been praying a lot. We've had a lot of friends and family and, family of church praying and stuff. And so God has really done some amazing things with her and we're just super blessed. So with today's episode, we're actually going to talk about the art of unlearning in marriage. And so before we kind of dive into that, we have a Bible verse, Ephesians 4:22 through 24 that we really want to talk about first. Why don't you go ahead and...
No. Yeah, well.
Okay. You want to do karate hands first? That makes me feel better. Well, there they are.
You were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to be put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. Ephesians 4:22 through 24.
Yeah, so God's word really talks a lot about. I mean, this is just one piece of scripture. It's about becoming and making new, choosing to become new, right? We're making these choices. And so, today's episode, we really want to talk about like unlearning, the art of unlearning bad things inside your marriage. Now, you may be bringing in other things from maybe previous relationships and previous marriages, right? So maybe there's some bad habits and beliefs and things that you're bringing in, but maybe you've been in just a marriage for a really long time and you've kind of acquired some really bad habits and beliefs within. It's never too late. And so we really want to talk about, maybe 4 things is what we got tonight for you to talk specifically about unlearning these within your marriage. And so there is an art to it. So we're going to kick it right off with the very first thing. It is, you need to identify. That's about identifying patterns, right? Understanding there is patterns and beliefs, but we always talk about it in recovery is about you need to learn to identify the problem to be able to start to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing we really want to talk about is identifying.
Yeah, and this is, so we talk about it a lot at Celebrate Recovery too, but I also talk a lot about it in my work as far as being a leader. You need to be self-aware and really be open to maybe blind spots that you have. And with you and your spouse, that could be something as a safe space to talk about, hey, these are some things that I think are character flaws or maybe some negative patterns that I've developed over the course of our relationship or I've brought into the relationship. This is some things that I would like to work on. Do you agree or disagree with this? And I think it's important to have that conversation to identify them, but maybe you identify it and you think like, I interrupt you all the time and I want to let you know that I think it's a disrespectful pattern, so I want to work on that. And then maybe he would look at me and say, That doesn't bother me at all. I think I adore you for that. And I work with that really, really well. What I would really like for you to do is go to bed with me at the same time, And so we don't want to be putting energy in working on something and then it not even actually at that moment need to be. Maybe there's something that's more important.
So true.
So you need to self-identify it. And then talk about it, with your spouse.
It is important. I think what ends up happening in a lot of relationships is people get really frustrated over time because there's not a proper way to communicate it. Because let's be honest, right? Typically in most relationships, when we're talking about a man and a woman, women have a tendency to kind of feel like the men should just know things, right? That it should be more clear to us. We should have a better understanding. And to be honest with you, in a perfect world, we should, right? We honestly should. But in all reality, men don't operate that way. Like we really need things spelled out to us in a very clear, eye contact, concise way. Like sometimes Christy's like, I know she gets frustrated with certain things with me because she's like, I know I've told you this like 40 times. And sometimes I'm like, oh, well, you said it the 41st time and you just said it slightly different than you said the other 40 times and now it's stuck with me. And that is frustrating. It can be very frustrating. But the point of it is we can't give up trying to identify. And I love how you put it. We can bring up and say, hey, I just want you to know this is what's going on. Is this something that bugs you? Mm-hmm. Not you do something that bugs me.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a great tactic, a way of identifying something.
Yeah.
Because now you could be like, okay, but what about, all right, so let's reciprocate on this. And it gives an opportunity to have open communication instead of just getting frustrated and saying you should know better. Like the toilet seat needs to be up, or down or whatever, guys down. Are like, it should be able to stay up. You have to put it down. Like and there's real arguments on that, which kind of blows my mind, but I grew up in a house full of women, so it's like I think I put the seat down more than anybody, even more than you.
My argument. Oh, you mean the lid?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Not the seat.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm talking about the seat. So my argument to that is,
the whole thing.
Do you ever have to sit to go to the bathroom, man? You do. You have to sit when you go poop. Okay. So you only get to stand when you go pee, and women have to sit 100% of the time when they go to the bathroom. So that means majority rules, and the seat should be down. Let's just go with that.
But the point is that could be
you brought it up.
That could be no. It's a good one though. Because think about it. Imagine a guy that grew up in a house full of men, right? Just all men. We never had to put it down. My mom just decided like she just gave up and she's like, screw it. I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to put it down myself each time. And she just never decided to talk about it.
Yeah.
And now you're in a relationship with a woman that says, I'm tired of sitting in the water.
Yeah. Can you please just put the seat
down?
Can
you please just put, right? And so we've identified something that's going on, and now how are we going to have healthy conversations about that?
And in their defense, and the man's defense, if you've never had it be a habitual pattern that's been ingrained in your brain, in your circuitry, that they're not going to think about it all the time.
They're not.
So it's like me leaving lights on. Let's use a valid thing that you and I have to deal with, because the toilet seat one isn't one that we actually have. So the problem is I don't even think to turn the light off. I feel like that when I walk in and out of rooms, lights should turn on and turn off just by my pure
like you're in a public bathroom
movement. Yes. So once I go into rooms in our house, I turn them on. And then when I leave them, I'm like, I'll probably have to be back in that room sometime today. So, I'll just leave the light on, right? But I don't think about it. I really don't. I walk out and I'm moving on with my day. And he has to turn the lights off all the time. So you have to pick and choose your battles too in this. So if you recognize a pattern and I come to you and I say, I have recognized that I interrupt you all the time, which isn't true. Like this is an invalid thing that we're discussing, but I interrupt you all the time. And it's something that I really want to work on. If that's something that he's been harboring, like your spouse has been harboring and they haven't found the opportunity to talk to you about it yet, but it's been like a little seed that's been planted now of the start of bitterness or annoyance in them. This could be the opportunity for them to say, I really appreciate you recognizing that. And it has really been bothering me. And I just haven't found it the right time to talk to you about it because it makes me feel disrespected that you interrupt me all the time. Yeah. And then it opens the door for you guys to have communications about it. So I think it's really important.
Yeah,
but being self-aware is important. There's so many free personality tests out there, like free, that you could go on and take yourself. And it gives you, I've taken many. for leadership, for personality, for all the things. And a lot of them are pretty accurate up until this point in your life to tell you things that, maybe good qualities about your personality type and maybe negative qualities about your personality type. Blind spots, as I like to call them.
When it comes to light switches, do I like them uneven?
Oh, no. And it doesn't bother me at all.
Right. So, it's funny. So we had, when you have like 2-way or 3-way switches and you're in the bathroom, right? You have a door that goes into our bedroom and then we have a door that goes to the hallway.
I don't think about it.
There's a switch that's by each door. And so I like them all either down or they're going to be up, right? So it's like, well, no, they're not all going to be up. One's going to be up if the lights are on. And then when you leave, everything's down. So,
but one of them on the...
I feel like Christy has an art of making them uneven, almost like it's an art. Like it's amazing how good she is at always making it uneven. And so I have to walk through a dark bathroom to turn off the light correctly, right? So
correctly.
Correct. Right? Which I'd say is correctly. But I don't die on the hill for this thing because I think to myself, well, she would have to walk across the bedroom or bathroom to make sure that they're even. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of just one of my pet peeves then. I shouldn't have an expectation on her because she would have to go out of her way just as much as I do to have to correct it. And so I think when we talk about, these patterns of things that go on, sometimes it's just our pet peeves and we can't put that pressure on our spouse to be, I need you to make sure that you fix my OCD.
He's OCD about a lot. I would combust, I think, if I tried to make sure all of his OCD things.
So I don't expect it. Now, I get frustrated sometimes at it because I'm just like, oh, like you were just in here. Like, I feel like you walked all the way around on purpose and like flipped it the other way, right? But in all reality, though, like when we're identifying things that are like that are unhealthy when it comes to like patterns and beliefs and, like these habits that we have to be very careful that we're not putting that pressure on our spouse to fix this when all reality, it's probably just something that's going on with us as an individual, right? So I think we have to be very careful when we talk about identifying. All right, so that's number one. What about number two? Number two is exactly kind of what we alluded to, was about communicating, right? How are we communicating this? I like how you alluded to it in the first point.
Yeah.
In a little more healthy way.
Yeah, and because it was kind of hard to talk about identifying it first without kind of jumping into the communicating part.
Yeah.
Because you do want to identify it, but then once you identify it, I like how, in some relationships, like you'll go up to the partner will go up to the spouse and be like, it's really annoying to me that you interrupt me all the time. I'll just keep going back to that one. Oh, I recognize that a couple weeks ago. I've been working on it. Okay. It'd be nice to talk about it, because once you guys start opening the door of having the healthy communication about things, and you learn how to do it without having to get in an argument every single time, it's actually makes your relationship really, really healthy. And the fact that you keep the communication open about even maybe this one specific subject, it keeps it on the forefront of your minds. And it lets you both know that you're both thinking about it and you both recognize it and you both are working on it in your own ways. Like I'm working on not getting as annoyed or he can be working on not getting as annoyed at me interrupting him all the time because he knows that I'm working on it and we're openly talking about it, once or twice a week, getting it brought up like, hey, I've really felt like I've been making a valiant effort and I feel like I've made progress. Do you feel like I've interrupted you less? And then if he was like, no, I don't. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe you didn't recognize. And then you guys can just talk about it a little bit. And him and I have done that with so many subjects, different subjects in our relationship about things like right now with Stella. I told him today, I'm like, I'm really feeling like, because we're sleeping, we have a crate on our bed. And so she has to be in the crate. So only one of us can sleep in the bed because the crate is large. So we're taking turns sleeping in the bed with her in the crate. And every time she moves, you can feel it. It wakes you up. And then the other person's sleeping on the couch. And then we're trying to rotate the way that we do that. But him and I go to bed together every single night. Yep. Like we make sure we go to bed at the same time and we're in the bed. So I told him today, I'm like, man, this is really feeling like it's wearing on our relationship. And of course, because I'm the female and he's the male, he's just like, it's been like 3 days, Christy. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you're right.
And it's not going to last forever.
And it's not going to last forever. Yeah. But it's important, and then he said in that time, like, this is important for us to keep talking about this right now, though, because if you're feeling that already, we need to keep talking about it so that I can make you feel good. Like I still love you. I still want to be with you.
Instead,
all of these things.
Instead of you not saying anything, and then you thinking, well, he's not saying anything, that means he doesn't care.
Right.
And that,
or it doesn't bother him. And if it doesn't bother him, it shouldn't bother me.
Right.
So why am I so upset about it?
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Which builds, right? And so something we've learned over our time is having really deep, open communication. And so using a high level of non-judgmentalness. Now, when we get into having communications about things that are really, really tough in our relationship, especially when we talk about children, which is kind of what I alluded to in the beginning, is that, us being in a blended family, we brought some of these things into the relationship, right? Yeah. Some of these beliefs and the way that we parent and these things. And so we kind of bring some of these in, but we've learned over the years that when we want to have a hard conversation with each other, we're like, hey, I need to talk to you about something, but I need you to hear my heart. Please hear my heart when I say this. We're on the same team. Before we even dive into it, it's like, okay, that means you're preparing me for something that's probably not something that I'm going to want to hear, but it's something that I need to hear. And I want to be able to work through this with you. And it's like we kind of prepare the communication moving forward. Like instead of just hitting them between the eyes with it, right? Because it's real easy to get defensive about specific things within the relationship. There's hills that we're willing to die on about our own beliefs or our own habits or whatever it is that we do. And so, but we should still be able to have healthy communication about that. And I feel like we've done a really good job about like, hey, I really need to talk to you about something, but I really need you to hear my heart on it. I need you to just hear it from my side, like the way that I feel and think about it. And I feel like that de-escalates it going into it. And allows it for a good, but I'm just saying it gives it an opportunity though, instead of just blasting each other with it in the face.
Yeah, because in our instance, and maybe it's like this in your relationship, there's, Josh tries very, very hard. He is OCD, like we established earlier, and he really prides himself on being the best at everything that he does at all times. And so he's really prided himself on studying me and working hard to make sure he's, loving me and adoring me and doing all the things and being a good husband. Like what are the things that a good husband would do? What has God required him to do? How should he be leading the family? All of these things. And because over the years, I've gotten more sensitive to that. Like I know how hard he works and I know how hard he's trying to be obedient to God, and he is a human and he's not going to be perfect. I try to go into that when I'm going to talk to him about something where I feel like I'm frustrated about it, because Josh is very sensitive to that, because he tries so hard that whenever I come to him like, hey, I was really upset by the way that you handled that it upsets him at first, because he's like, he doesn't say this, but he's thinking this, like, I work so hard and I do everything to do everything just so and be just so and all these things. And now you want to come to me with this one little thing that I did wrong when you have no idea how much I'm trying and doing and all this stuff. And that's what he thinks.
It's actually spot on accurate.
Because we've talked about it now, and it took us years to get to that, because I would be like, why do you get so upset about, like, am I not allowed to talk to you about something that you hurt my feelings on? And it took us years to figure out, to be able to talk about it this way. Yeah. Because now I'm sensitive to that. Like, hey, I want you to hear my heart. I know that you love me. I know how hard you try. But that doesn't mean you're not going to screw up sometimes.
Yeah, that I'm not perfect, right?
And we need to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, I have a very hard time with that. I don't like failure. I don't like failing. I don't like coming up short. I don't like those things. So I put a ton of effort into everything that I do, because I don't want anybody...
Including being a husband.
Of course, yeah. Which is tough. And that's a perfectionist
open
thing.
Communication.
That's a personal issue problem. So, all right. So that's number 2. All right. So number 3, moving on. Is what about together, right? We have to talk about joint efforts, like when we are working on, trying to unlearn and really, take and recorrect maybe some unhealthy things going on inside of our marriage, we need to understand that there's an individual journey going and a together journey going. It's never just an individual journey. Yeah.
So that's kind of like the example I just gave, though. So an unhealthy pattern that we did have in the beginning of our relationship. And I hope the listeners, you guys understand that these unhealthy patterns could be years. right? Until you guys figure out the secret code of getting through that. So a lot of times we didn't figure this out right away. Like I would get upset with him about something, and then I would go and I would tell him, and then he would be like, oh, everything's my fault. Like all of this stuff is wrong. And then I would be like, I can't come to you about anything because you go into shutdown mode. And it was just a cycle until we really started talking to each other about why. Like why are we in this unhealthy pattern of these types of arguments? And then we really need to listen to each other more. Like, why do you respond that way? Is it because of this? And then he would say, it's because I try so hard and I feel like you're breaking me down or cutting me down when you say that. And then vice versa. Like, I feel like I can't ever come and talk to you because if I try to talk to you about anything, it like crushes you. Yeah. And then I feel like I have to hold all of this in, and then I start to get like upset about it. And so recognizing those unhealthy patterns in disagreements, a lot of it is our communication. A lot of the unhealthy habits that relationships have and marriages have is how they argue. Because like Josh said, there's individual journeys going on that God has placed on both people. And then there's a together journey that God has placed on you. And you have to be able to come together and recognize a way to talk about it and to get each other's feelings and hurts and wins and joys out. I mean, some of the things are successes, and you may be jealous of your spouse with some of the successes that they have in their relationship. And then like us, for instance, Josh struggles with being jealous sometimes about me working. When I'm jealous that he gets to stay at home and be with the kids all the time. And, you know, 2 of the kids aren't his, they're mine. And he's gotten to spend more time with them than me. And I'm having to go out and work. And I would rather stay at home some of the time. So you have to be able to figure out the unhealthy back and forth that you have and sit down and get your secret code, because every relationship's different.
It is. And I think it's important to understand that when we talk about togetherness, when we talk about working on these things together, that every relationship is different in the sense that you guys are going to grow differently at different times. And so it's so easy to get frustrated with your partner because they're not up to speed on some of the things and making some of the changes that you're in. It is frustrating, right? So think about being together in your relationship, and maybe you guys got married when you were 22 years old and you guys were both, the guy was wearing size 28 pants and the girl was a size 2, right? And everything's great, right? Well, you get older and you have kids and, now you guys are, in size 148 pants and right and whatever, but you grow, and now all of a sudden one of you decides like, you know what, I'm tired of this and I'm going to start eating better, I'm going to start working out, and I'm really trying to get my spouse to do it, but they're not wanting to do it with me. That can be very frustrating because you can feel like we're supposed to be a team on
That's
this.
me and you. Like I really want to do it and you just won't do it with me.
You're not ready to do it, and so it's like we go back and forth, and Christy and I have always done that. Especially, I even bring up this one because this is famous for us. She'll be hot on it for a while, and then I'll be hot on it for a while. And she'll be hot on dieting for a while, and I'll be hot on exercise for a while. And it's like we go back and forth.
It's like we want to sabotage each other.
It feels that way, right? But we understand that in all reality, life and marriage isn't about this year. It's about the next 30 or 40 years. And if we're willing to say, you know what, this season of life, I don't want to get frustrated with my partner just because they're not taking charge in this portion of their life. It doesn't mean they're never going to in these ways. And it reduces our frustration about changing the certain things. That's why we mentioned about, having healthy communication about it. Just because you have the communication doesn't mean that your partner's going to change tomorrow.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way.
That's true.
So continue to work on yourself and your own journey of change in these certain areas, but understand that you're on a team, right? And sometimes it's about setting in the example too for your partner, for your spouse, and saying, hey, I'm not going to climb on you or get mad at you because you're not doing these things, but it's important to me. So I'm going to continue to do this, and I'm going to continue to talk to you about it.
Or praying together can help, like about these things, journaling, like the couples journal about reminding one another why you're together. Like a lot of the things, a lot of times you have to go back and remind, like, why did we start? Everyone sees the meme, like, when you feel like giving up, remember why you started, type of thing. Yeah. And it's the same in your marriage. Over time, it's tough to see the forest through the trees. You'll get so caught up in the season that you're in that you forget, all the history that you have together or all the dreams that you had together because you're stuck looking right in this moment that you're in. And it's good to talk about these things.
It is. Our final point is support. I think
support.
It's important that cruddy hands. It's important. There they are. It's important that we have a support system with these things. And listen, your support system may not be your spouse in that time. It may not be. Your support system may be going to counseling. Your support system may be having other people that are healthy, good Christian friends that are willing to encourage you along the journey. It may be something like a Celebrate Recovery. It may be, some type of group work like that. But understanding
it should never be your mother talking about your spouse to your mother.
It should never be talking about your spouse.
Right.
It should never be that. And that's an important
I just want to make sure we're clear.
part. Yeah. But that is, we have to have support, right? And so say, hey, this is a journey that I'm on right now. These are some things that I'm dealing with, that I'm working through. I'm just looking for someone else that maybe is going through the same journey in their own relationships. And we have to be very careful because emotional waters will seek their own level. So if you're both really discouraged, then that's really unhealthy. It's like when you're both eating unhealthy, like you guys are going to eat healthy together. That's really hard to do. Like it's really hard to do. And that's just the truth of it. So our support system means let's find someone like a good, healthy marriage, right? An older couple that has a really healthy marriage, and then find someone that can be a good mentor in these situations, someone that's been through it and gone through it. And so that I think is just a vital, important thing.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important too, to remember that you both maybe have unhealed things. So if by the time that you've maybe recognized some things in your own self that you need to work on, and then you try to have open communication about it to get it out, and then you understand maybe some unhealthy patterns that you have in your relationship with dealing these things together, a lot of the support system could be going to counseling. I'm glad that Josh talked about it. Or talking to a person maybe that's dealt with it and is farther along than you. Mm-hmm. Like in Celebrate Recovery, you're encouraged to have somebody that's, just even one step ahead of you, based on the journey. Because if you focus on your own healing and healing some of the things that you have in your own life, you would be shocked at what the difference it makes in your marriage. Because the way that we argue or the way that we fight or the way that we work through difficult seasons of our relationship does come back to how healed we are as people from the things that have happened to us in our lives. And we all have something. We all have things that as we've grown into an adult, you have parents that were overly involved in your life and they caused you to be functioning at a level of perfectionism or they allowed you to be, it's opposite. They allowed you to they've already always bailed you out on everything. So you're just willy-nilly about it. Or you had parents that just disregarded you. So you are a constant perfectionist because you want to just gain that attention and approval and all of these things. Like these are patterns that we develop, everybody develops as children. Whether you have the best parents, the worst parents, whatever it is, you have unhealthy patterns from it. So finding a community or a sponsor or go to counseling or something like that to help you heal and to grow as a person is vital for your marriage.
It is. And it's important that we find people that tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear.
Yeah.
And that's why I said about emotional waters seeking their own level. Like the last thing we need is a sounding board of somebody that's just like, that's right. He's a jerk. You're right. Like that's horrible.
He should put the seat down.
He probably should. Let's be honest. So, but she should also put all the light switches down. So, I mean, we can always find someone that's going to tell us what we want to hear.
Hey, you used an actual thing that I do. You put the seat down. Okay, that's not right. That was a jab.
I'm perfect, so I don't know what to say. It's not a jab.
He used real life thing.
That's the idea, is to use something real.
Mm-hmm.
That really is true. But I never tell you that you need to do that. Like it's never that. Is it?
We're not talking about it right now.
It's important, though, that you find a support system. Find somebody that's going to encourage you. And I really do encourage you to find someone that's older, a couple that has a healthy marriage and that you can, you can bounce ideas off of. And that's going to keep encouraging you to go back and fight harder for your marriage. So
I just had a girl reach out to me, a month or two ago and say, hey, I really felt like the Lord was leading me to getting connected with an older person than me to go out to breakfast.
You're an older person.
I am quite a bit older than her.
Yeah.
So it's a valid thing, as she said. But I was proud of her for doing that because at that age, I was not doing that. So I didn't start thinking of wanting a mentor or something until like late 30s.
2 years ago.
Late 30s.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago, probably. Oh, I still was in my 40s.
You were still in your 40s. No, you were 39.
Oh, okay.
Almost. It's close. It's getting real close. Her birthday's next month. So it's getting really close.
But yeah, so I think it's important to do. And that's a sign of maturity, though, too.
It is. So, the art of unlearning in marriage. Well, as a way of review, why don't you tell everybody the points again?
Number 1, identifying unhelpful patterns and beliefs. Number 2, the role of open communication in unlearning. 3, joint efforts in unlearning and relearning.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 is support systems and professional guidance.
That's right. How are you working on unlearning unhealthy things within your marriage?
And relearning. So that's good. Like once you unlearn an healthy pattern, unlearn an unhealthy pattern.
Yeah,
relearn a healthy pattern.
Yeah.
That was hard. That was hard for me to get out.
Together, because you don't know what's considered healthy and unhealthy unless you ask your spouse, because they may not even care.
Right.
It may not even matter to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important. All right. Thank you guys so much. We will see you guys next Tuesday, 7 p.m. live. See you then.
Bye.